LARAMIE. After last year's embarrassment at New Mexico, Wyoming's defense owed its offense a favor. Saturday, it produced 7. The Cowboys forced a program record 7 turnovers, and 5 of them led to touchdowns, as Wyoming rode a 35-point second quarter to a 42-3 defeat of New Mexico. "When you're in good positions like we were tonight," quarterback Josh Allen said, "it's kind of hard not to score." It was the second straight one-sided game between Wyoming, 5-3, 3-1 Mountain West, and New Mexico, 3-5, 1-4, but the roles reversed Saturday. In last year's regular season finale, New Mexico rushed for 568 yards, the most of any Football Bowl Subdivision team in 2016, and most ever for a Wyoming opponent. This year, Wyoming allowed just 115 rushing yards and 184 total yards of offense. "That really burned at us, and we knew we were a better defense than that," linebacker Logan Wilson said. "And so coming into this game, that was just our fuel, to come out and execute the best we could." After Wyoming's scary dominant performance on Halloween weekend, some treats, Wyoming scored at 6 touchdowns in a span of 7 drives. Just one of those possessions came from a punt. The rest were a result of takeaways and began with an average field position of New Mexico's 23-yard line. 4 came on Allen passes. 3 came on Austin Fort scores. Another handful, Allen matched a career high with 4 touchdown passes. Fort now has 4 touchdowns on 4 career touches. Wyoming's 6 offensive touchdowns were its most in a game this season. Wyoming's 5 interceptions were its most in a game since 2009. With the win, the Cowboys have now beaten every team in the Mountain Division since the start of last season. The Lobos were the only team in the division Wyoming hadn't beaten under Craig Bowl. "It's the only thing we've talked about," safety Andrew Wingard said. "Well, not the only thing, but one of the biggest things we've talked about since last year." First-year safeties coach Jake Dickert came in. He said, "I haven't heard anything other than New Mexico, New Mexico, New Mexico. We've got to get New Mexico." And we did. So, it was definitely a redemption game. Back in 2016, we checked a lot of teams off that we wanted to get back, but we still didn't get New Mexico. The Cowboys entered this meeting with a different defensive coordinator than last year in Scotty Hazelton, as well as a different game plan and a different level of confidence. "We really had pretty much 2 calls going into the game, with a couple changes if we needed a wrinkle," Wingard said. "And that was it. Guys were doing their job. You saw guys out there tackling, wrapping up, and that's what it is. We all did our job, and we made plays." New Mexico still runs a triple option, but this year's offense has included more of a passing element with the addition of freshman quarterback Tavaka Tuioti, whom Wyoming recruited. Tuioti started the game and threw 3 interceptions. Lamar Jordan, who ran for 176 yards in last year's 52-35 defeat of Wyoming, rotated in with Tuioti and threw 2 interceptions. "If you stop the option and all that, you force them to throw the ball," Wingard said. "You're going to make plays. That's what we were saying. It's money time. When you get them to 3rd and long, stuff like that, that's not what they're made for, and you can just go out and get picks." Wyoming's first turnover came on defensive end Carl Granderson's 2nd career interception, which have both come in Wyoming's last 3 games. The former wide receiver returned his pick 37 yards to set up a 1-yard touchdown run by Allen. The second turnover was a Marcus Epps interception that set up a 4-yard touchdown pass from a leaping Allen to Fort. Wyoming punted its next drive, but the Lobos muffed it and Braden Smith recovered. 2 plays later, Fort scored on a 2-yard run. Fort then added an 11-yard touchdown catch to cap an 80-yard drive, Wyoming's longest of the day. Wingard intercepted the first pass of New Mexico's next drive, and Allen found John Aquili 2 plays later for his first career touchdown catch, a 19-yarder. Wingard's second interception of the game set up another one-play Wyoming drive, this time a 38-yard touchdown pass from Allen to a wide-open C.J. Johnson. It concluded a furious 16-39 stretch in which Wyoming scored more offensive touchdowns than it had its previous two games combined. It also capped Wyoming's scoring on the day. Wyoming produced 35 points on 7 turnovers Saturday, after scoring 43 points on 17 turnovers in its first 7 games. The Cowboys could have added more, but chose not to attempt a field goal after Tyree Mayfield recovered a muffed punt in the closing minutes. "It keeps the defense going," Ford said. "It gives the momentum right back to them. They want to keep the cycle going, and it makes it hard for the other team. It puts more pressure on them, and I think they got out of their rhythm because of that. Because we were getting turnover, score, turnover, score. That kind of momentum is really hard to get out of." For good measure, one last batch of sweets for the Wyoming faithful. Wyoming's 42 first-half points gave the Cowboys their first 40-point half of the bowl era. Allen's 234 passing yards were his most against an FBS team this season. Ford is the first Wyoming position player to score 3 touchdowns in a game since Tanner Gentry and Brian Hill both did so at UNLV last year. Wyoming hosts Colorado State next week in hopes of retaining possession of the Bronze Boot.